company is Isle of Arran Distillers Ltd, and as the name suggests, we're involved in the Scotch whisky business. We have 2 single malt Scotch whisky distilleries on the Isle of Arran. We have our original distillery up in the north in the village of Lochranza, and we have our relatively new distillery down at Lag in the south of the island, which produces a heavily peated spirit in contrast to the unpeated spirit that we produce up at Lochranza. So we produce premium quality single malt Scotch whisky, which we ultimately bottle and export, sell throughout the UK and export around the globe. The industry tends to be dominated by larger companies, but certainly we are one of the few independent distilleries, and we kind of view ourselves as the first of the new wave of distilleries to reach maturity. The business is very much driven by our export sales. So we export to over 50 markets around the world. So we export throughout the European Union, throughout Asia Pacific and North and South America, and we've built up a network of distribution partners around the globe over the last 25 years. And as I say, export is very much a key part of the business, both now and very much into the future. It's something we'll look to expand and grow in future years. Our top 5 export markets, certainly in 2022, were France, Japan, Germany, China and Sweden. The EU is our largest trading region, but as I say, the Asia Pacific region now makes up about 30% of our sales, and the US and Canada combined make up about 7%. So we have a nice spread around the globe, and as I say, we have a well-established network of distribution partners. Key part of our success is having a good spread of markets and regions that gives us that strength and depth. As I say, if certain areas or markets fluctuate year to year, we know that the other areas will perform better and give us that security. Just one particular case study, which was South Korea, where our exports by value in 2018 were £28,000. By the end of last year, they were 330,000. So it's not in our top 10 markets, but it's an example of an export market that has grown very rapidly over a relatively short period of time, and it's just a good example of a place just to be aware that if sales do accelerate, you have to be prepared for that. You have to be ready for that, and make sure you can meet the demand, but that you're communicating with your distributors at all time. Personal relationships with your export partners are absolutely key to success in the export environment, and it's critical that you have very open communication, that if there's a problem, if there's a shortage, that you're communicating that clearly and openly, and people will understand if there's a problem. But what they don't understand is if you're not letting them know. And that's where frustrations can come in. So we try to be very open and upfront and communicate things very clearly. Things like price increases, we like to give as much notice as possible, so that there's time for these to become bedded in. And it's about human interaction at the end of the day. And you have to build that close personal relationship with your distribution partners, and sometimes know when to bring that to a close as well. There's maybe a case where a partner has taken your brand as product as far as they can go in the market, and you potentially have to move up the chain, and that can be difficult to manage as well. But it's about having that personal connection, and that's the main key, I would say, to success. We've faced a number of challenges in our export sales, in particular in recent years. Obviously, Brexit presented a series of potential challenges, and we did find that we haven't seen any drop-off in demand from the EU trading bloc, but from a logistics perspective, that has been quite challenging. Whereas in the past, trading with the EU, as when we were a member state, was relatively easy. We could ship the end of one week and know we'd be delivered to, say, France, our largest market, by the following Tuesday. now the lead times are a lot longer, there's more paperwork involved, and markets are tending to consolidate into fewer but larger orders. And then obviously we're facing a number of geopolitical factors. We had been trading with Russia for the best part of 20 years, but that's now come to a stop whilst the war continues in Ukraine. We're just having to be very, very aware of these things now, where we weren't particularly factors in the past that we were overly concerned about. In terms of overcoming the challenges, we sort of have to accept that as a small independent business, we're not going to change any of the situations, so we have to either work around it rather than working through it. We quite often will speak to other whisky companies in the sector and ask their advice, and vice versa. We can help them. Yeah, but by working together, by just understanding the challenges, we overcome them better. We're quite unique in the whisky industry in that as demand grows and hopefully continues to grow, we can only sell product that was laid down in casks. So we're selling whisky which is maybe 7 or 8, 10, 15, 18, 20 years old, or in some cases even older. So our export plans are very much dictated by the stock that was laid down all of those years ago. So last year our single malt volumes grew by 16%, but that was on top of a growth of 56.5% in 2021 over 2020. And our stocks dictate that we can't continue to grow at these volumes. So with the Arran single malt brand, we're in a phase of what we're describing as managed growth. So we're ensuring that our key markets have enough stock to maintain growth patterns, but that may mean cutting back or even potentially cutting out some of our smaller markets in the short term, just while we overcome these problems. With our lag single malt from the newer distillery, that's less of an issue. We're building up a stock profile there, and we're looking to introduce that brand now over 2023 and beyond. We tend to break our markets into 4 tiers. Tier 1 being the most important, so that would be our top 5 markets, and then that's where the focus of our time and attention is, and that's where we make sure that we have the greatest allocation of product. And then we move to tier 2, which is our sort of secondary tier, and then lower down the chain is more sort of service markets, and that's where I say potentially it's not ideal, but if we had a shortage of stock, those are the markets that potentially we may have to look to cut back. But as I say, with lag coming on stream, that gives us an opportunity to grow at the same time. So we're looking to the future at all times, and new markets on the horizon. So potentially with a trade deal with India, for example, it's an enormous market for brown spirits, and a trade deal with the UK could open up a massive opportunity there. There's very, very high import tariffs on whisky going into India at the moment, which really puts imported products out with the grasp of the vast majority of the population. If these come down with a free trade deal, that opens up an enormous opportunity. But there are many, many markets around the world where we're not trading in yet, and we view every one as a potential opportunity.